It's the last Sunday of November, 6 p.m. here in Korea. Thank you for joining us. Hope your weekend plans are unfolding nicely. This is Daniel Choy here to provide you with the latest news updates. We begin in South Korea, of course, politics. After sorting out a majority of contentious issues hampering passage of the 2015 budget, Korea's main rival parties on Sunday agreed to extend the budget review period with the hope of passing it by the legal deadline of December 2nd. Starting us off is our Choi You-sun.
Less than 24 hours before the legal deadline for reviewing next year's budget bill, Korea's two main rival parties agreed to give themselves an extra couple of days to finalize negotiations on the bill by December 2nd. According to a new law, the parliament is legally bound to pass the 2015 budget by Tuesday, and after the review deadline of midnight Sunday, the government's budget plan will be submitted for a vote. Both the ruling and opposition parties are aiming to pass the bipartisan bill on Tuesday after getting rid of the government version of the budget. If the parties manage to do this, it will be the first time in 12 years the parliament will have passed the budget by the legal deadline. On Sunday, the Budget Committee chair explained there just wasn't enough time for the parties to finalize the bill in time after compromising on a number of thorny issues just 2 days before the deadline. The opposition party boycotted the parliament last week over a number of contentious issues, including the central government's cost-sharing plan for a free childcare program and a cigarette price increase, as well as the opposition's demand to scale back corporate tax reductions. The ruling and opposition side said after setting aside the most contentious matters, they have agreed on more than 90% of the budget, and they're close to completing negotiations for the remaining 10% or so. But with a number of committees in dispute over bills to be attached to the budget, it still remains to be seen whether the parliament will meet the budget deadline on the 2nd. Choi You-sun, Arirang News.
Shifting our focus to North Korea, 2 North Koreans are reportedly training at a Russian nuclear research facility in Dubna, raising suspicions that Moscow is secretly supporting Pyongyang's nuclear weapons development program. Japan's Sankei Shimbun quoted Nikolai Rysakovich, the chief scientific secretary at the Joint Institute for Nuclear Research, as saying that the trainees are learning the science used for developing nuclear weapons technology. The report adds that 6 North Korean experts stayed at the facility back in January to learn how to turn radioactive material into nuclear material. If the report is found to be true, it would go against a 2006 UN resolution banning the training and support of North Koreans in nuclear weapons technology. Now, the regime and its leaders that takes themselves too seriously has always been an easy target for filmmakers around the world for parody or spoof or satire films. And of course, we have one in the process right now, soon to be released in December. And Sony Pictures is behind that film, and the company is investigating to find out if there are any North Korea connections to a hacking attack that took down their computers earlier this week. The attack happened a month ahead of the studio's release of The Interview, a comedy about 2 American journalists hired to assassinate North Korean leader Kim Jong-un. North Korea in June called the production of such a movie an act of war. The hackers, who call themselves the Guardians of Peace, have reportedly threatened to release Sony's secrets and top secrets if their demands are not met. Investigators are looking into the possibility that the hackers are working on behalf of North Korea and are operating out of China. However, no link to North Korea has been discovered. The Interview is slated to open in the U.S. on Christmas Day as scheduled. The Japanese government is reported to have demanded the removal of statues in Seoul and the U.S. state of California that were put up in remembrance of victims of Japan's wartime sexual enslavement of women. Citing diplomatic sources, Yonhap News Agency reports that Tokyo requested the removal of a statue in front of the Japanese embassy in Seoul and another one in Glendale, California. This in an apparent bid to pressure Korea to make the same effort as Japan to settle compensation and other issues affecting the victims, the majority of whom are Koreans. The request was made during recent high-level talks on the issue with Korea. Officials in Seoul responded that it's not up to the government to intervene, as the statues were put up by civilians, and that Tokyo should instead settle the issue in a way that's acceptable to the victims. Well, the Korean labor market is about to see a major shift in the coming years. Unless some drastic measures to turn things around are taken, it looks like labor shortage and an increase in low-wage work could be inevitable. Our Kim Ji-yeon tells us more.
There's going to be a labor shortage early in the next decade, with the number of available jobs surpassing the number of those seeking work. This will be the result of a sharp decline in the number of job seekers who are part of the baby boom generation as they exit the labor market. This, according to the Hyundai Research Institute in a new report. It's referring to people born right after the Korean War between 1955 and 1963. The group numbers more than 7 million people, or nearly 15% of the total population. The report also says there'll be a sharp increase in the number of low-wage, low-skilled jobs. It projects Korea will have high employment elasticity, which means more people will be offered jobs despite small increases in industrial growth. Employment elasticity measures increases in employment when the economy grows by 1%. The report says Korea's employment elasticity will shoot up to 0.6 points in this decade from 0.2 points in the late 2000s. The institute also projects there will be a jump in the number of students who work while they're in school, as well as job increases in the service sector. The report suggests the need for policies to resolve the projected labor shortage, and in particular, policies designed to help people balance work and family and work and school, in addition to increasing the number of temporary positions available to workers heading into retirement. Kim Ji-yeon, Arirang News.
Let's shift our focus outside of Korea, this time to Hong Kong. Leaders of pro-democracy movements there say they are considering moving off the streets and into government buildings. But a source close to the Federation of Students tell a different story, saying student leaders who were recently released on bail could be planning the move just to get the dwindling number of dedicated protesters off the streets. If students began blocking the entrances to government buildings, it would force the police to make arrests, which could in turn prompt protesters to leave. A week ago, a small group of protesters attempted to break into the city's Legislative Council building, a move that made some demonstrators question the protest leaders' lack of organization. Darren Wilson, the white police officer who fatally shot unarmed black teenager Michael Brown in the U.S. city of Ferguson, Missouri, has resigned. Wilson told the St. Louis Police Post-Dispatch, that he was stepping down on his own free will, saying his police department had reportedly received threats of violence if he continued in his job. He told the paper, quote, "I'm not willing to let someone else get hurt because of me." He added he had a clean conscience because he knows he did his job right and that the encounter would have unfolded the same way if Brown had been white. A grand jury spent more than 3 months reviewing evidence before announcing last week it would not indict Wilson. The death toll from the Ebola outbreak has jumped to almost 7,000 people in West Africa. The World Health Organization said Saturday the death toll has gone up by more than 1,000 since its previous report on Wednesday to 6,928. The sudden sharp rise in the number of Ebola fatalities appears to be due to a large number of previously unreported deaths. Meanwhile, experts warn the infection rate is even more significant than the death toll as it reflects how the virus is spreading. There have been over 16,000 reported cases in Guinea, Sierra Leone, and Liberia since March. Officials say the spread of the disease has slowed in Liberia, but has increased in Sierra Leone. Trams are not a common mode of transportation here in Korea, not yet at least, but that could change soon. Local researchers are developing a mini tram that gets from A to B without the need for a driver or rails. Our Connie Kim has this report.
A mini train approaches a depot soon after a passenger presses a call button. And without a driver, the vehicle runs automatically and can accommodate up to 6 passengers. It's a domestically developed unmanned compact train called the mini tram. Instead of running on rails, the tram recognizes magnet platforms placed every 2 meters along the road, which enables it to correctly calculate its route. Another feature is its vertical mobility function, implemented for the first time ever, which allows a mini tram to be used inside large buildings as well. It can be recharged wirelessly in just 2 minutes while waiting at a tram stop. The Korea Railroad Research Institute plans to speed up development of the technology with hopes of commercializing the mini tram by 2016.
We expect the mini tram to be implemented in large facilities such as Incheon International Airport to carry passengers from the terminal to the parking lot.
Mini trams are currently in operation at London Heathrow Airport and Masar City in the United Arab Emirates. Now, many are curious to see how the locally developed mini tram might change your daily activities here in Korea in the future. Connie Kim, Arirang News.
And now the weather. It looks like we have a prelude or a dress rehearsal for a possible white Christmas here in Korea. Get ready for a snowy morning in Seoul, Gyeonggi, and the central parts of the country. And brace yourself if you're on the west coast, which can expect more than 10 centimeters of snow tomorrow. Now here's a look at the weather conditions elsewhere around the world. And that brings us to the end of our newscast. We have more coming up at 10 p.m. Korea's time, so do join us then. For now, thank you for watching.